guess I wanted to start by just talking about why I chose this topic in particular. So I was supposed to do a team call a different night, and I switched. So I did it a little bit earlier, and I found myself having kind of like an off week where like we've all had it and experienced it. And I mean like business-wise, where I was just kind of like checked out, and I didn't have all the fire and the passion and the business tips that I would have like loved to bring to you. If you asked me last month or like a week before, I probably would have came with all of that. So I really wanted to just talk about something that I think happens to me a lot and a lot of other people, and I hear my coaches talk about, and that's just this idea of other people's opinions. And when we do what we do and we're constantly putting ourselves out there, it constantly comes up. And I've been doing this for 2.5 years, and it still comes up often for me. So because that was kind of going on with me, I was diving into personal development that dealt with that. So I figured I could kind of just give you these little tidbits, these little nuggets of things that I read or that I listened to that helped me. So I was going to share a little bit about the things that happened to me, because in the moment it felt so hurtful or icky or whatever it is, but we all kind of have these experiences. And it was looking back on it now, I'm like, why did I even let myself get bothered by it? But there was one instance where someone didn't like what I had to say about teaching, or thought that maybe I was saying something negative about teaching. And I was like, man, I really got to like watch what I say. And they were offended. I don't want anyone to think I think badly of teachers because I didn't want to teach anymore. And then in the same week, someone also didn't like what I had to say about postpartum depression, or how I was presenting that on social media. So it was like these two things that are big for me, and a big part of my story is being able to resign from teaching, and a big part of my story of my struggles with being a mother and postpartum depression. Like that's me. Like that was me being authentic. And for anyone to address that in a negative way just had me kind of questioning everything. So I don't know if anyone's experienced things like that before, but I think it's important to think about these things and how we can kind of handle it when things like that happen. Okay, so let's see. Where do I want to start here? The 3 resources that I used, one, Ashley Malstad, who is a coach in the company, she just has something on her YouTube channel. It's titled Other People's Opinions. I think it's from like a year ago, but she talks about this exact topic. So I'm just going to name them for you in case you want to check any of them out. The other one, it's called Life Coach School Podcast. That's a really good podcast. They're nice and short, and she gives such good info. The name is Brooke Castillo. And then the last one that I was listening to that kind of deals with this stuff is Shailene Johnson's podcast. And that one is called 5 Things Confident People Do. And if you can probably guess what number 1 is, it's they don't give a shit about other people's opinions, or at least insignificant people in their lives. And I was frustrated that this was bothering me. And then I also, when I'm doing these Getting Started Right coach calls, every single new coach is saying that's their biggest fear, is what other people are going to think of them, or that they're going to be perceived this way or that way. So many of us want to be people pleasers. Like whether we believe it or not, we want to be seen as like, she's a great girl. Right? Or, she's just so nice. She's such a nice person. Or she takes such great care of her kids. She's a great mother. She has it all together. Or, you just want people to see you doing well or think highly of you. That's like human nature. But the truth is, and like, I just like have this written down and starred. And as many times as you can tell yourself this. You cannot control other people's opinions of you. Good, bad, you can't control it. You can be what you think, exactly what people want you to be, or what would make you good. People still aren't going to like you. People still are going to have their own opinions, no matter what it is. I could have stayed a teacher and did maybe what this person would have thought was a better choice, And I might have other people judging me for a whole different reason. It doesn't matter. People are going to have their own opinions. So many of us don't go after like what we genuinely want in life because we're worried about that, because we're so consumed by and held back by other people's perceptions of ourselves. So we start to do kind of like this lighter version of ourselves or something that's like more appealing to others. And just to relate it to like our coach world, I don't know if you've ever experienced it, but like if you're ever typing a post and then maybe you like go back and reword it or refix it because you're thinking of those people. I'm thinking of that person I used to teach with that's not going to like the way I worded this. That's like doing things to please other people instead of saying it how you would say it. Or you're leaving out the part that maybe might not make you look so great. But that's the part that people relate to. So we start to kind of lose ourselves. Even if we think we're being authentic, sometimes we're giving kind of just this lighter, more like appropriate version of ourselves. I actually saw a post today in this group. So there's this group, it's hashtag made for more. It's like a Rachel Hollis group. So obviously there's a lot of like-minded people in there. There's a lot of like MLM people in there, but this girl shared this post and I was like, that's like exactly what it is. Like those are things that people relate to, but not a lot of people are writing about because it might not put you in the best light. So she said this, I think it might be a little bit cut off. I'm going to try to read it back to you, but I took a screenshot of it and some of it's cut off. My house is rarely clean. I let my kids stay up late and watch TV. I drink coffee until it's time to drink wine. I get a real full shower about twice a week. I'm rarely on time. I run a booming business, but I'm always on my dying cell phone. I'm loud. I talk and GIF. I play the how far can I drive before I get gas game pretty much every week because I forget to stop. I pay my electric bill quarterly when they send me a shut-off notice because I forget to send that crap in. Like, those are all of these, like, not very maybe socially desirable characteristics, but like when she said that electric bill thing, like I died laughing. And like, because I don't know about anybody else, but like you just like I get it on a piece of paper and like that paper goes in a pile and then you get like a notice, you're like, oh yeah, I gotta pay the water bill that comes 4 times every year. But like I related to so many things she said, but those aren't necessarily things that I'm sharing because I think people would think of me in a bad light. But that's her. So I think when we can start to kind of figure out who we really are and what we really want to share, that's when like people connect and relate to you. Those are the people you want to find. And then there was 2 analogies that Ashley gave, and her YouTube is pretty much based off of this Life Coach School podcast about other people's opinions, but they probably will do a better job with the analogies. But they talk about you could be like the juiciest peach ever, like the best thing ever. There are still going to be people out there that don't like peaches. So like if you can just think of that in your head, that idea that people are going to have opinions no matter what. People are not going to like you no matter what. So don't change being who you are. Don't not be the juicy peach. Just find the people that do like the juicy peach. And the other one I really like too is a lot of times we're willing to feel much stronger or defend more people in our lives that we love, but we won't necessarily do the same things for ourselves. So like, that's my husband, and she uses the example too, and I kind of feel this way. Like Zach is like the opposite of me, where he's like very laid back. He's very social. He gets along with everyone. He would do anything for everyone. He drives me crazy in a lot of ways too. I'm not saying he's perfect, but if someone were to come to me and say like, oh, Zach is such a jerk, I can't stand that guy, I would be like, crazy. Like, who doesn't like Zach? There's something wrong with you because he's amazing, right? Or like if you have this best friend that you love, she's the funniest girl ever, everyone loves her, she builds everybody up, but someone's like, yeah, I just can't stand that girl. You want to be like, maybe I can't stand her either. Maybe maybe he really does suck. Maybe he is an asshole. No, you wouldn't question it. You would say, they're the crazy one. So why do we not do that for ourselves? Why do we not have that same thing? Why was my reaction when someone questioned what I was saying about the teaching profession? Why would I not say to myself, they're crazy? Why would they think I was saying that? Why would I try to explain myself of why I was sharing about postpartum depression? I didn't need to do that. I shouldn't have had to do that. So if we can have our own back the same way we would have for someone that we just love and adore so much, and I think that's where the confidence piece comes in, that could change a lot of things. So those were the two analogies. Okay, so here's some like points of maybe how, if you're struggling with this, and maybe not everyone is, but I think at some point this pops up for somebody, right? How you can make some changes. At some point, you have to decide whose opinion matters. Now, you don't have to just say like, F everyone, I don't care what anybody thinks of me. I care what my husband thinks about me. I care as my daughters grow up what they think about me. But the biggest answer to that question, do you know like the number one person who you should care about what their opinion is of you? Anybody have any guesses or want to type it in? Whose opinion should you care most about? Yes, so you, right? What do you think about yourself? I think for most people, at your core, you like yourself, right? We're constantly like censoring ourselves or changing certain things, again, to like fit into what we think people like. But if we can tap more into like that we do like ourselves, that we care what we think about ourselves. Did I know in my heart of hearts that I have nothing but the utmost respect for the teaching profession, but that I was dying to get out of it? Yes. Do I know that I would never use something like postpartum depression to make a sale? Yes. So I should have just been good with it, right? That their opinions did not matter. Your opinion matters. So that's kind of the first thing. If you find yourself in that circumstance, if you feel good about what you're putting out there or whatever the situation is, then it doesn't really matter. The other thing I like is, what is the alternative? So, you know, like in our business and kind of what we're talking about when we talk about others' opinions, I really said like moments like that and the things that happened that week made me just want to be like, I don't even want to share a single thing anymore. I'm going to live my life and just like turn it all off. Like, I don't even want to be online at all. But what's the alternative? How am I going to do that? How am I going to go back to the life before I started all of this? And that looks different for everyone. For me, if I never did this or if I went back to not doing this, I would have 3 kids in daycare right now, which would cost way more than the mortgage on my house. I would be canceling plans with my friends all the time because I felt miserable and disgusting and inadequate in my clothes and couldn't stand to be around other people. I probably wouldn't have a great marriage. I probably would be a much more stressed out, anxiety-ridden mother. I mean, the list goes on and on. You guys can fill in the blanks. What is the alternative? Sorry, I'm just trying to pull up the chat because I saw some things. Yes, exactly. Sorry, I'm just reading through the comments. So I think, I mean, you want to be positive, but I think it is helpful to imagine if you aren't doing this, what does that mean? What's the consequences of not following through with this? And then they talk about, it doesn't have to be, like, you don't have to post tonight and just say, like, you know, your deepest of darkest secrets and put everything out there. But if you just think about, like, little by little, just showing more of the real you, not what looks good, not just the healthy meals that you're eating, not just the workout pictures where your abs are showing, not even just workouts and food, but just showing a little bit more at a time of you, and the freedom in that of not putting things out there, thinking about even specific people or specific groups of people and how they will interpret that, because it doesn't matter. You get to decide how you want to show up, and there's definitely a certain freedom in that. It's something worth working towards. If we're going to do this and we're going to do this business, and we can, talk about being authentic, but your authentic doesn't look like my authentic. You need to figure out who you're going to show up and be. And the other way to think about it too, and I mentioned, like, people are going to judge you no matter what, even if you're the juiciest peach. But wouldn't you rather be judged on who you actually are than who maybe you're not even, but you're being judged on that anyway? So if you're showing up how you actually are, at least they feel that way about who you actually are, and not some filtered down version of what you're trying to portray. Because if they don't like you and you're being you, then that's great. They're not your people, and you keep it moving. Something else that I think is helpful to think of too, because it can be overwhelming thinking like, man, how am I ever going to just overcome this completely and get to a place where I am just so confident all the time and no one else's opinion is ever going to matter. But fear is a good thing, even fear of judgment of others. It's okay to have fear and to have self-doubt and have those moments. But you have to take action in spite of them. If you dwell on them, that's where you get stuck. And I think that's why so many people stop or quit in this business before they get started or before they have a chance, because they get a little taste of like that fear or being uncomfortable, and then they stop. They go in the other direction. But if you can just like stand that fear, maybe uncomfortableness a little bit longer, and take action anyway, that's when you see the growth. This isn't the first time that I felt like I don't want to do this because I don't want to be judged. But it was another learning experience for me. I'm sure it's not going to be the last. So it's okay to have those moments. You just have to keep going anyway. All right. And the last thing was kind of what Shailene Johnson was sharing about the 5 things that confident people do. I don't know. I just have notes from it as I was listening to it. I don't think I have it numbered, but obviously her first thing, I think I mentioned to you guys already, that confident people do is they don't worry about other people's opinions. And she says, especially those that don't have a significance in your life. Guess how significant the person was in my life that told me that they thought I was representing teachers in a bad light? Like this much. Okay. Barely know them. They're not someone significant in my life. Now, if my husband sat me down, which he would never do, but if he was like, I really think in that post, Kerri, that you crossed the line, like maybe I would give it some thought. But why did I ever even give this thought? You have to think about whose opinion matters. And she also says confident people don't worry about things they can't control, which is other people's opinions and a billion other things, and about how worrying is a waste of time. I just wasted the first half of this month being in a rut because and it wasn't just that, as there's other factors too, but I wasted a lot of time worrying. And if you know the truth, why would you waste your energy on that? I knew the truth all along of what really I was saying. She gave an example that her husband, Brett, was, I guess he's like I don't know if he has his own podcast or what he was speaking on, but he's very sarcastic and he like teases her all the time and like kind of teases the Beachbody thing. And he was saying, like, teasing something about Shaun T and about how it'd be so easy to like put together these programs, and just kind of like teasing him about it. Well, I guess people on social media thought he was talking about Chris Downing and they, you know, were going off about how unsupportive her husband is and like all of these things. But like, one, he was talking about Shanti, and she said at the time they were staying at Shanti's house and like they're good friends, and he really is a supportive person. Like, she knew the truth, and she said, honestly, not one of those comments bothered me for a second. I knew the truth. Shanti knew the truth. Chris Downing knew the truth. Why would I waste my time and energy on people on the internet that I don't know when I know the truth? It really is a waste of time. Is she going to, you know, try to address those comments and explain the truth? Why? For what? For who? So I thought that was a good example. And so the other things aren't necessarily about opinions of others, but I just thought the confidence piece ties in. The other thing she says is they don't blame others for their predicaments, which I think is a huge thing that you get from Beachbody. Before Beachbody, I was very negative, and I just thought, you know, because I'm a mom, this is just the way life is, and I didn't feel a whole lot of power and control in changing that. I just felt stuck in it. But we know that we can choose our attitude, we can choose our actions, we can wake up after a bad or off day and decide that that day is going to be better. We know that. I feel like that's something that we probably do really well in this community. The opposite of that would be people who just blame other people for their circumstances. And then just lastly, I think I made this point a little bit earlier, but she just talks about how you should feel fear, but just never let it stop you. To be confident, you can be confident and still have moments of self-doubt. And that kind of resonated with me. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. You don't have to be this super confident rock star every single day. There can be moments of doubt, and you can still be a confident person. Okay. So that's what I have. I didn't have necessarily a good plan. Like I said, it was just those 3 things that I've listened to and pulled some things from. So I hope that's helpful. And I hope that it's relatable if you've had those moments. And I appreciate you just letting me share, because I think just saying all of this out loud makes me feel better. I see all of your faces, and I know what Beachbody like really is, and people can have their say-so and their thoughts, but they're not significant in my life, so I'm not going to care about their opinions. So I guess if anyone had any questions, or even if you just want to share anything, or if like you have recently found yourself struggling with any of these issues, or if there's anything you do that maybe help you with the fear of judgment. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Kerri.
Sure.
So I had a friend. We were pretty close, like in college. She was another athletic trainer. And she didn't even like call me. She sent me a message. She's like, "You're always bashing athletic training and how bad it is." I was like, "No, I'm talking about my opinion and my experience." I'm like, "I'm sorry that you took it the wrong way, but that's not my intention." Mm-hmm. And as much as I felt bad, like the friendship, I haven't talked to her since, and that was 2 years ago. And I'm okay with that, because number one, I don't want a friend like that who thinks I'm being like malicious. I don't know, whatever she was thinking I was coming across as, but like I knew my intention. My intention of that post was sharing like my story, like how I didn't like where I was, regardless if it was athletic training, teaching, nursing, blah, blah, blah. Like that didn't matter. It was my experience. Like you can't take that away from me. You can't tell me like you have to love teaching or else I'm not going to be your friend. It's like, no, like I knew like what my intention of that post was. And that's not my fault that you wanted to interpret it a different way. And that's something like we can't control. Is you could read something and somebody else could read the same thing, and you're going to come across with 2 different opinions of what that thing, that post actually said, because it's all interpreted by that person by their own experience. So if they're unhappy with what they're doing and you're like, hey, I'm so happy, this is like the greatest thing ever, like I don't have to do this anymore, they're going to be pretty pissed off that they're not in your shoes, versus somebody who loves athletic training and great for you, Rose, like you were able to quit, like, but I love it, so that doesn't bother me. So it really does come down to like, if you know what your intention is, then that's really all that matters.
I think that's another good point too, is that usually when things like that happen, it's because of their own experiences or like their own perceptions, and it has very little to do with you. Like you said, like someone who like was passionate about athletic training, they'd be like, do you? I'm never leaving this job. I love it. But, you know, maybe there's something in her that felt frustrated with it, and that's where it comes from.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'll just add that I feel like I've always had a fear of judgment my whole life as well. And I think that starting this journey and being with Beachbody has helped me work through that fear. And I kind of take the perspective that it's my duty and responsibility to help others learn and work through those fears too, because I know that I'm not alone, because I know that my whole team has the same fears. You, Kerri, everybody, human nature is like worries about what other people think, from a child when they care about what their mom thinks, right? So it's just nature. But anytime I have that feeling inside of me, I always kind of think, okay, who needs this? Like, who needs to hear this today? And as a mom, just like you said, Kerri, we often do things for others more than ourselves. That I use that perspective to help me like get over my fear. Like, okay, someone else needs to hear this today, so I need to share it, right? Like, it makes me force myself to get out of my head more often than not. And every time I've had to make big kind of announcements or changes to my life, or things that I was really worried about, fearful of others, it only helped me grow as a person too. And I've been through many of those throughout my business. You know, most recently, that was a big fear that I had when I made a decision to go back to work. It took me so long to make that decision because I was in my head about what other people are going to think. Not that I made the decision or not, but about sharing it. I was like, oh, I got that butterfly feeling again, you know, like, what are people going to think? I don't freaking care what other people are going to think. It's my decision. It's my life. It's my happiness, right? But I also knew that when I shared that, other people, you know, the right people would respect that, because they needed to feel like, wow, I need to like be truthful too, you know, or I need to own my happiness or whatever it is. So thanks.
Anybody else for questions, comments?
I'll go. So I totally agree with Leah. Like, I was the most fearful person of judgment ever when I started this. I always cared what other people think. I would like hold back any opinions that I had, didn't like raise my hand in school, nothing, because I feared it so much. I feared that things would come out wrong, or, you know, I would like stumble over my words and like people would judge me based on that. So doing this whole thing, everything was outside my comfort zone when I started, but I have grown so much as a person. But it's hard. Like we get so much support and love on our posts, and yet we have a tendency to focus on one person that is saying something negative, you know? So, I mean, even still to this day, like if someone says anything negative, like that's the thing that I would choose to focus on, not the 50 likes and the 25 comments of support. I would be focusing on the one person that had something negative to say. So it can be hard to to get yourself out of that mindset. But I think little by little you do, and you learn to like just brush it off. And clearly they're not, you know, a person that is interested in what you're saying, so they don't need to be in your life or on your news feed to begin with.
That's a good point too, Erica, is like if I see somebody that's like negative on my news feed, or like they just post like some dumb crap that's like negative, like just little bullshit, I just unfriend them. Like, I don't want that aura, that energy around me. I'm like, done, gone, bye, see you later.
Yep, I do the same thing.
Yep. I can't have that like getting in my head. All right, if everyone can put their camera on, we'll take a quick picture. And I'll put it on, I'll tag each other. Anybody else? There we got Lisa and Tara or Allison. All right, guys, 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Thank you so much, Kerri.
Sure. Thanks for listening, guys.
Of course, of course. Have a good night, everyone.
All right, bye.
Bye.